Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Morung Express and Penthrill, for this opportunity. When I got the call from the Morung Express team asking me to be a part of this, just like the previous panelists have said, I looked at the topic and wow, it's something which, if you ask anyone sitting in this room, we're all Nagas and we have a stake in something like this. So anyone can actually say something on this because we're all stakeholders. But then I looked at my co-panelists and they have seen so much more, they have experienced so much more. So I thought, what would I bring to the table? But then I took up the challenge because this would require me to also study, get a little bit more deeply into what I want to say. So thank you, Morung Express, for this safe space. If someone were to ask you to describe Nagaland in one word, what word would come to mind? Let's for one moment look at ourselves from outside. Bahar Manwanbra, how do they look at us? Okay, would a word like culture, tribal, heritage, would that kind of a word come to mind, or would a word like something to do with our environment, pristine, enchanting, exotic, or would a word something to do with the future, potential, vibrant? What kind of word would come to mind? Last year, I think many of us would have watched a popular TV series on Amazon called Patal Lok. For those who don't know, it was a storyline which most of it happened in Nagaland, and many of our young Naga faces, they got a chance to be actors in that. Okay, and it showed Nagaland in a different light. It showed a broken society, corruption, drug addiction, guns, violence. And I remember some people criticizing it, saying, "Arey, it's portraying Nagaland in a very negative light." For me, I felt that perhaps we've held on to this image of a mysterious, exotic, all the words that you thought of, that kind of a pristine Nagaland for far too long. We've milked it for so long that we all need reality checks from time to time. The previous speakers have spoken about the bad roads. Wow, 20, 30 years later, it takes us the same amount of time to get from a village to the capital. We look around, be it corruption, be it tribalistic divisions, unemployment, right? So, and our prolonged economic conflicts and political conflicts and economic stagnation has perhaps turned us from the brave warriors to anxious warriors. We are a worried lot. Rasta kinika aze. That's a bigger worry for us, right? And if you spend time looking at popular news or social media, what are some of the things that Nagaland is making the headlines for? The lowest number of working hours, Nagamandawan as day, less than 6 hours a day. The highest amount of tobacco, gutka, pan masala chewers as a percentage of population, 30% of Nagas. The highest percentage of HIV prevalence. Now, these are the things where we are toppers. Last year, I got the opportunity to be a part of a state economic development committee that got to go to Delhi and interact with the Prime Minister's economic advisors. So these are the top economists of the country who advise the Prime Minister. So we basically went with all our shiny projects and proposals, we studied. It also gave me an opportunity to look at the economic scenario in Nagaland and also how Delhi views our issues, right? So we went, since agriculture is our mainstay, so in the project proposal, there was something related with agriculture, agro-processing, post-harvesting, all that. And also we said, okay, tourism in some sustainable way, so eco-tourism, rural tourism, blah, blah, all that. We went with a very good project proposal and we went to Delhi and we were pitching basically, right? So what did they tell us? Hold on. You are already a very dependent state on central funds. 90% of our requirements come from Delhi. Apuni kan nijor pocket para 10% bhi nolai, aru etia ki ania je to, right? They stripped us bare. And then they sat down with us, like small kids, and we did a study. Okay, what does Nagaland have? Let's look at your neighbor states, Sikkim, Meghalaya, Tahando, they are also tribal states. Kini ona Tahando progress koina jaise abningan. You're coming each time like this, right? So we sat down and we discussed two things with them. The first thing, they said, okay, if you don't have your own capital, you don't have money, what are the ways for outside money to come in, investment from outside? So idula conversation kurina jaremde, we got stuck at a point. We said, but sir, we have constitutional protection. Article 371A says that outside people cannot so easily come and take land, do this, do that. We all know that story, right? So it stopped there. And when we talk about outside money, I mean, apprehensions are there, but even look at the Indian economy. Till the 90s, we were a very closed economy, you know. And sometimes being too closed, we may be missing out on something. So in the early 90s, even India, you opened up the economy, and that's how right now we are the fourth or fifth largest economy in the country. The second thing which we talked about, which the economists ask us, okay, then what does Nagaland have? What occurs naturally in Nagaland? So again, we went back to all the statistics. Geology Mining Department, Nagaland has 600 million tons of oil deposits. Wow, we're sitting on huge reserves of oil deposits. But then they ask us, so why aren't you exploring this? You're sitting over a lot of wealth. Because on one hand, I mean, even the wealth you're sitting today with all this clean energy fuels happening, few years down the line, it'll be worthless. You're just sitting over something. But then there also we explained to them that, sir, we have the sovereignty issue going on, and we've decided that until this is properly done, we're not going to explore this, and we have so many other issues again. So we were back. And there they poked us a little bit and said, okay, give us some estimates. I mean, me especially being from the revenue service, the numbers come naturally. So they asked us, okay, how much is Nagaland losing out on? So we did the calculation. Conservative estimates. 1,800 to 2,000 crore is the amount we are losing out every year. And if you look at our budget of 22 to 23,000 crore, that's like a good 10%. So just by changing this, I mean, from a 90% to 10% economy, you could suddenly change and become so much better. So these were the things which the economists were telling us. And on this point, I have heard our Honorable CM also make a point, perhaps in exasperation. He said that we are rich, but choose to remain poor. He said this during an interview. So in these two examples of bringing outside investment in or natural resources, the team, when we were coming back from Delhi, we also thought to ourselves, I mean, maybe we are also stuck in that position where for far too long we are saying we are different cultural heritage since time immemorial. But to them, we look like spoiled children, always depending on that 90%, but never really being willing to go back to the drawing board and reconsider our positions, right? So the challenge which was staring back at us was, how do we benefit from Article 371A, from a place of protectiveness to a place of empowerment? And in this context, economics, can it not be an economic engine rather than a shield which we always keep running back to? This has become a shield that an excuse that we are always going back to. And I'm just giving an example from economics and revenue. I'm sure you call someone from politics, culture, social, they will also have their examples on this same thing. So this was what the top economists of the country threw at us, and I don't know, maybe some among you must be looking at me and saying, idu is sabi pakka brainwashed Central Asian listener. But see, I'm giving you the numbers and this is the dialogue, safe space. I'm also just putting my views forward because, see, the truth is, increasingly for someone like me who works outside Nagaland, has been working in Nagaland, whether it's a gathering of just the northeast states or a gathering of all over India, the fact is that some honest taxpayer in Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi has paid its taxes properly, and from that we are enjoying this 90%. This thing needs to come into our head. This thing needs to come into the conversations at some point. Okay, that we are living off subsidies, free handouts. Nijo hat pura pasina kamaina. Basically, it's not that. So this truth also, the bitter pill, has to be swallowed at some point, right? So whenever I go to any of these meetings, increasingly the question is, what does Nagaland bring to the table? Right? What does Nagaland bring to the table? The economists were also asking us, what is Nagaland bringing to the table? And if we are talking about hope and progress for the Nagas, I think this question is something which we all need to ponder. What do you and me bring to the table also at an individual level? And this would require changing mindsets, from a victim mentality, always only being the takers, never contributing anything, to perhaps realizing our own worth, realizing that we also bring something unique to the table, and then not only being benefiters, but also contributing from our side. And in all this, the answers need to come from within. We cannot keep going to Delhi or keep expecting outside people to fix these issues for us. Some of the things which I listed, these are our own issues. That's what even the economists pointed out to us. All these issues, it's your own issues. You guys go back and fix it, right? So the answers need to come from, and like the panels before me have spoken also, in all this, the way forward would include blending tradition with modernity, right? Blending indigenous wisdom with modern contemporary tools. And I am aware that economic development, I'm talking so much revenue, economic development, but this cannot happen smoothly without our Naga political issue being solved. But again, why this economic progress is important is because look around, look at the young Nagas today. What do they care about? They care about jobs. They care about a future, education. They care about progress. They want a better life. Many are tired about the the prolonged conflict. They want a better quality of life, right? So the challenge is to ensure that these protections which are there to preserve our heritage should also translate into real world improved quality of life. When I say improved quality of life, I don't just mean, again, money and material wealth. It means everything that surrounds the Naga society, be it cultural, political, social, an improved quality of existence. We all deserve that, and we owe this to the future generations as well. And in all this talk of development and progress, who ultimately benefits? See, if things remain status quo, 90%, 10%, it doesn't mean tomorrow Nagaland is going to crumble. No. There is a certain section of the society who will continue to grow rich, but the idea is for more and more of us to enjoy the fruits of development as we go ahead, isn't it? We Nagas, we have survived colonialism, insurgency, we're in the middle of that, and in fact, even bureaucracy is a system which was superimposed on us. So the way forward would look like us going back also to some of the core things that was there with us. Courage, truthfulness, brotherhood. And so the question, I've written this down, so I'll read this. In the shifting world, how do you define hope and progress for the Nagas? For the Nagas, hope and progress means three things. One, being rooted in the rich cultural heritage of the past. Two, being responsive to the present day realities. And three, being boldly and courageously oriented towards a future which is self-determined. Thank you so much.